Welcome back to Great Day St. Louis. When I was a kid, personal video cameras were really a novelty, but now, thanks to tablets, mobile devices, smartphones, cameras are everywhere, including the most recent protests. But before you fire up that iPhone or that GoPro, our next guest has a few things you should keep in mind. Ed Herman is with the law firm Brown and Crouppen. Ed, it's good to see you. I'm sure you've been watching these protests unfold just as closely as we have. Let's start with the issue of public property versus private property when it comes to still photography and video recording. How does the law see that?
Well, when it comes to public property, obviously what you're allowed to do is much broader. Still photography is always allowed in public property. If something's in plain view, you can take pictures of it. It doesn't matter if it's the police, protesters, counter protesters, what have you. If it's private property, then the rules are going to be dictated by whoever owns that property. So if a private property owner asks that you don't take pictures, you don't record, you really have to honor that request. When it comes to videotaping, it can get a little bit different depending on whether you're in Missouri or whether you're in Illinois. Missouri, if you're on public property, it's pretty much fair game because Missouri is what they call a one-party state. So the videotape, including the
Mm-hmm.
audio, shouldn't be a problem. Illinois is an all-party state, meaning that everybody who's being recorded needs to consent to that recording. So that's just for the audio, strangely. So you can record the video in Illinois, but if you record the audio, you might run into a couple of issues with that.
Let's say that a person at one of these local rallies or protests is stopped or maybe even detained for taking still photographs or taking recordings. What should they do?
Well, first of all, always stay calm. You don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
into a situation where you escalate something with a police officer. So, obviously, you really shouldn't be arrested for this. If they do detain you, the first thing you should ask them is you should say, "Am I free to leave?" And if they say yes, I would just walk away calmly and avoid the whole thing completely. If they're making some attempt to detain you, you should absolutely ask what you're being charged with and remind them that you have a First Amendment right to do that as long as you're not interfering with their actual police work. Um, and then, of course, if they attempt to view your pictures or your video, you don't have to show that to them.
Mm-hmm.
They would need a warrant to see that. And under no circumstances should they ever ask you or you should be made to delete anything that you have recorded. You can keep that.
Okay, so they shouldn't be allowed to see it or manipulate it in any way. That's good to know. That's a
Right.
key takeaway
Yes.
here. Let's say it goes one step farther. If a person believes that his or her rights have been infringed upon in a situation
Mhm.
like this, both kind of in the moment and then after the fact, what should they do about it?
It's very much like what we tell people to do if they've been involved in an accident. You write down everything that you can or
Hmm.
record
Hmm.
everything that you can in terms of the officer's name, a badge number. If there's a patrol car, what's the number on the patrol car? If there were witnesses, get their contact information so they can be spoken to later on. If there's any injuries involved, take photographs of the injuries. This is very similar to what we tell people to do if you've been involved in a car accident. And then, of course, once you have all that information, you have a couple of options. You can contact an attorney, or you can contact the police department, the internal affairs division, or you can make a civil complaint through there. So, but accumulating as much of that information as possible because you'd be amazed as to how difficult that stuff is to get after the fact.
Oh, I bet. Obviously, law enforcement, the vast majority are just trying to do their job, and part of that job is protecting the freedoms and the privileges of these protesters. So, Ed, we appreciate your insight on this. If you'd like to get in touch with Brown and Crouppen, their phone lines are open right now. You can call them anytime. It's all twos, 314-222-2222, or visit their website. That would be